Good evening, everyone. Tonight is Tuesday, June 16th, 2020, and I'd like to call the Appointments Committee to order. Councilors present this evening, Council Vice President Walsh, Councilor Van Hazinga, Councilor Fleming, Councilor Green, and myself, President Kushmerek. We're also joined this evening by Mayor DiNatale, Susan Davis, and Deputy Chief Thomas Dadio Jr. We have one item on the agenda this evening, and that is a new appointment. The Chief Engineer, Fire Chief for the Fitchburg Fire Department, and that is Thomas A. Dadio Jr., who is joining us this evening. With that, I am going to turn this over to Mayor DiNatale, and Mayor, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, members of the Appointments Committee. I hope that my words this evening will demonstrate to you what an extraordinary candidate Deputy Chief Thomas Dadio Jr. is for the position of Chief Engineer, Fire Chief. I have appointed Deputy Chief Dadio due to his proven track record of leadership and his community involvement. I consider these qualities to not only be essential characteristics of a fire chief, but also as clear evidence of his commitment to the city and the members of the fire department. Deputy Chief Dadio's leadership experiences over the years have garnered him the respect as a leader in the Fitchburg Fire Department. He has on numerous occasions stepped in during any absence of the current chief, as well as served by his side over the past 7 years. Deputy Chief Dadio possesses the skill set the city requires in a fire chief. His demonstrated skill set includes, but I caution you, it is not limited to, executing unified command on the scene of major fire events, coordinating mutual aid with neighboring cities and towns, successfully negotiating 10 union contracts, assisting in the department budgeting process, including forecasting, overtime management, and staff analysis, exhibiting a leadership style that maintains and improves morale, overseeing the fire inspectional service, coordinating efforts with other city departments, successfully writing grant applications, addressing the media on the scene of major fire events, providing in-house training of employees, and participating in many labor and disciplinary arbitrations. In addition to the above, Deputy Chief Dadio has demonstrated his commitment to our city through his involvement with various boards and groups. Deputy Chief Dadio has served as a member of the City of Fitchburg Retirement Board for 12 years. He is also a founding member of the Public Employees Committee for Health Insurance. His commitment to the city through the Retirement Board and the PEC are evident. Additionally, he has served as the Secretary Treasurer of the Professional Firefighters of Massachusetts Local 3128 for an astounding 18 years. In addition to this service, there are countless examples of Deputy Chief Dadio's dedication to our city and his fellow employees. It is important to me that the fire chief has an elevated level of commitment to ensure the highest degree of fidelity and dedication to the city. This track record should leave no doubt that Deputy Chief Dadio's commitment will not waver as he assumes the role of fire chief. Deputy Chief Dadio's service in these endeavors not only establishes his commitment to his peers, but his peers' belief and commitment in him as a leader. Serving the positions detailed above, Deputy Chief Dadio is required to earn a vote of confidence from his peers. Year after year, on each occasion, Deputy Chief Dadio has the trust and respect of his fellow employees and peers confirmed by their vote. In addition to Deputy Chief Dadio's leadership within these groups and committees, he has been a continuous mentor of the men and women of the Fitchburg Fire Department over his 41 years of service. His efforts as a mentor underscored his commitment to the well-being of his fellow employees. His role as a coach in the department has established a solid foundation for which I am confident will facilitate an efficient and successful transition. A nearly seamless transition in the fire department has never been more important than during a time in which our city is dealing with such uncertainty caused by a global pandemic. Based on the aforementioned reasons, it is my solid belief that Deputy Chief Dadio is the most qualified candidate for the position of fire chief in our city. His proven dedication and admirable track record of service to the employees and citizens of the city will equip him to continue his committed work as our fire chief. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Davis, are you now presenting?
Yes. Yep. Good evening, President Kushmarek and members of the Appointments Committee. I know that you've already received a copy of the report that was supplied to the mayor, so I'm going to just give you a high-level explanation or description of what the search committee process looked like. As you're aware, the mayor established a search committee in April of 2020. Its primary goal was to provide names for recommendation for the position of chief engineer and fire chief. The search committee members were Steve Curry, public health director, myself as the director of human resources, Patrick Haverty, who is the acting president of the Permanent Firefighters Association, Local 3128, Ernest Martineau, who is the chief of police, Bezel or Bill Tolos, who's the chairperson of the Disability Commission, Elizabeth Welsh, who's the city councilor of Ward 6 and city council vice president, and Leona Wetzel, who is the vice president of community programs for the Montechusett Opportunity Council. So as per the Civil Service Rules and Regulations, the position was posted on the Mass Civil Service website. The candidate pool was restricted to City of Fitchburg employees who currently hold the position of Deputy Chief within the Fitchburg Fire Department. So this gave us 4 eligible candidates, and those folks were tested in accordance with Civil Service Rules and Regulations. That testing, which is otherwise known as an assessment center, was conducted at Fitchburg State University on February 24th and February 25th, and we hired a consultant as required. That consultant was John Perro from John Perro Consulting and Associates. The assessment center resulted in 3 eligible candidates for consideration for the position of fire chief. Of these 3 candidates, as per Civil Service Rules and Regulations, 1 may be appointed by the mayor to the position of fire chief. So a virtual meeting was held with all the search committee members, on May 19th. And the meeting agenda included a review of the civil service candidate eligibility and selection process, the details of the testing activities, the assessment center, and the search committee process and objectives. The primary objective of the committee was to provide the names of 2 candidates in ranked order for the mayor's consideration for the position of fire chief. This objective was achieved by interviewing and evaluating all eligible candidates. Civil service rankings were provided to the committee members. However, the assessment center grades, the civil service scores, were not provided. The committee did agree not to consider civil service ranking during the evaluation process in order to avoid influencing the result. This was to be an independent process of those scores. The interviews were conducted virtually on May 22nd. Based upon the interview responses, individual evaluation forms were completed by the search committee members, and they were submitted only to myself. Each candidate was evaluated and scored in the areas education, work experience, technical qualifications, communication, and budgetary experience, among others. Again, you have that in your package as well. Based upon the candidate evaluation and scores, the search committee did rank Deputy Chief Marama as the first place candidate for the position of fire chief. The committee voted 5-1 in favor of Deputy Chief Marama. A oral report and written report as well were provided to the mayor for his decision with all the rankings and recommendation on May 26th. think you're muted, President. Oh, sorry.
Mayor, did you wish to add anything?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. That said, we have Deputy Chief Dadio with us, and I want to provide Deputy with an opportunity to introduce himself and speak to his appointment.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I just want to say that I'm honored by the mayor for his recommending me for this position. Truly an honor for me, and I want to recognize all the councilors for this appointments committee as well. And thank you for your service to the city. It's a very difficult job, and I honor you for that. Having said that, a little history about myself. I was born here in Fitchburg. I went through Fitchburg Public Schools. I graduated from Fitchburg High School. I have an associate's degree from Mount Wachusett Community College in fire science. Got on the fire department at a pretty young age, at the age of 20. Since that day, I never looked back. I'm a second generation firefighter. I used to come in here with my dad when he was healthy, and it just, I just grew from there. I did 4 years on the ambulance, working as an EMT, serving the citizens of this Fitchburg, of the city of Fitchburg, treating them as I would treat a family member. And I instill that to all the people we hire now. I do the interviews with new hires, and I recommend that to them. But as I progressed, what I did was I took a leadership role in just about every avenue I went through. I started with I used to do the muscular dystrophy boot drive. I was involved in that for many years. Civic Days, I ran spaghetti suppers for Civic Days to help out with Civic Day expenses. I got involved in the union, as the mayor stated, for 18 years. And I also ran a community betterment fund from the union, which we, raised money and donated several $1,000s to local charities, youth sports. So my 18 years as a union official just taught me so much. And through that time, I also, moved up in the ranks from private to lieutenant to captain to deputy chief. And I spent ample time in all the ranks. So I really got to be very proficient in all the ranks. I just developed my skills. And I think, the mayor hit on a lot of the topics, but the PEC was important to me, the Public Employees Committee. I knew that the city was in trouble with health insurance. The costs were going up. So I took the lead to start that committee so we could work on health insurance. And we did. And it actually got every union together to bargain collectively instead of the city having to bargain with 17 different unions. By doing so, we saved the city initially, I think it was $2 million the first year, and every year thereafter. And over the course of the OPEB costs went down approximately $60 million over just by doing that. So I'm really proud of that. And also serving on the retirement board, helping the retirees has been a passion of mine. But also as a leader here, as a lieutenant, captain, I feel like I've mentored, several firefighters. I always had an open door policy with them. Anything they needed, please come in and I'll give them any advice I can, training. And like the mayor had read, I've been involved in so much in this department. I've commanded several major fires, hazardous materials incidents, and the list goes on. But fortunately for me, I got to work with Chief Roy for 25 years. I was the union official when Chief Roy became chief, and we continued working together throughout his 25 years as chief. He mentored me in several aspects of this job. And fortunately, I got to work with him on a lot of the things the mayor mentioned, the budgets, hiring people, conducting interviews, We went through some tough times with layoffs and demotions, and I was able to be part of that. So I think with all those skills, it's just put me in this position. And again, I thank the mayor immensely for this recommendation. It's an honor for me to have served the city for 41 years. It's an honor for me to continue serving the city. Like I said, I grew up here. I have a passion for the city. Anything that can be done to make the city positive, I'm 100% behind. But I also, over the years, have developed relationships with all the firefighters. And as far as the respect goes, it's mutual respect both ways. But the firefighters have, I believe, have respected me immensely and put me in this position. And I want to continue with a lot of the Chief Roy's policies. I want to focus on safety for this department. I want to progress the department into the future. There's several things that I have in mind that we can start doing. And this has been a difficult year with the pandemic. I worked directly with Chief Roy regarding this. I was originally part of the committee, but we realized there was too many people, so we had to narrow it down. But I came in countless days, off duty, met with the chief, and whatever he needed, I was here for. So I think my commitment to the city is you read my my resume, and I think you'll see that my countless years of experience. I've been a chief officer, a deputy chief for almost 8 years, and before that, a captain for 6 years. And as a captain, you also run as deputy chief, and you command incidents. So my 14 years of fire command, and my other years as an officer, and I just I've learned so much from previous officers, previous retirees, and I think again I can't thank the mayor and the council enough for considering me for this position. And I will take any questions if anyone has any questions for me. Please feel free. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Dadio. At this time, I'm going to mute your mic, and then I'll direct any questions to you, the mayor, or Ms. Davis, as appropriate. But again, thank you for your thoughtful presentation to this body. With that said, first I have Councillor Green. One moment, Councillor Green, if you could just unmute on your end. Wonderful. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, residents of Fitchburg. I have asked for this time to read a prepared statement so that I may stay on point and on relative topic. I have chosen my words specifically and deliberately as to not offend either candidate or embarrass our great Fitchburg Fire Department. This department has been led by some great leaders, one being Chief Kevin Roy, slated to retire later this year. It is our duty as the subcommittee to make that appropriate appointment. This department has had such great, rich history in this community and still has so much to be proud of. The educational efforts both candidates have made to us as counselors on funding and grants is a real asset. Most recently, the funding for our new turnout gear, vitally important to the health of our firefighters, not only for today, but now we know the importance of having a second set of gear to wear if needed to minimize the exposure of toxins or cancer to you and to your family. Also by providing the proper washing and drying system at the fire stations, all done by grants. Thank you for that. Funding for new equipment, not just for the fleet, but most recently new gym equipment at the fire station. Appreciated to keep you healthy. The dedication that every member of this department shows is a testament to this department, is a testament to the guidance and foresight from the past. Thank you for the time, energy, and efforts by all who continue to secure grant money to make these purchases. I, as well as the residents of Fitchburg, appreciate that. The level of commitment, both personally and professionally, of these candidates is a great example of best practices on how to promote from within the department and lead by example and mentorship. Both of these men have given a great deal of their lives to this department, a service profession which puts others' lives first, above theirs, every day, potentially leading to death, to save us, our families, our pets, our homes, our business, unselfishly. Both of these men have led this department with integrity and the utmost level of professionalism, not only with their colleagues, but with each other. That is a reflection of true leadership. It should be noted that between our candidates, there is over 60 years of dedicated training and development and thousands of hours of instruction and preparation. This is a department that is ready for the challenges of today, tomorrow, and the future. You should know that peers, residents, and friends expressed high recommendations equally to you both. You are loved and respected by this community. It has been my honor for the past 7 years to walk alongside of you during parades, to stand by your side at memorial services for fallen brothers, and to visit socially with you out in this great city we call home. I want you to know I admire the men you are, I commend the work you do, and support your efforts in moving your careers in Fitchburg forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Green. Next, Councilor Walsh. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I want to thank Deputy Chief Dadio for his 41 years of service to the Fitchburg Fire Department and to the city of Fitchburg. It has been very clear for over 25 years that the Fitchburg Fire Department is a civil service department. As such, there are protocols that should continue to be followed. These protocols were followed through the recommendation phase by the search committee for this position, and then a different path was chosen. Considering all of this, in good conscience, I cannot and will not vote to approve this appointment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh. Next, we have Councilor Van Hazinga. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also have a prepared statement because I think this is an important issue and I wanted to make sure I get my words right regarding it. For the first time in over 25 years, Fitchburg is hiring a new fire chief, one of the most important positions in the city. The mayor has submitted his appointment for the position to the city council, and it is now our responsibility to carefully consider whether or not to approve his selection. As I have deliberated whether or not to approve the appointment, I've primarily concentrated on two main priorities: that the city follows the rules of the hiring process, and that the city hires the best possible candidate for the position. The city code requires that the appointment of the fire chief be made in accordance with the Civil Service Act. Officers in the preceding rank are given the opportunity to take a civil service examination to test their knowledge and ability, which is then adjusted to reflect the candidate's education and experience. The candidates are then ranked by their scores, with the top 3 eligible for appointment. The mayor may bypass the top scoring candidate, but must provide justification for doing so. I am significantly concerned because I have not received reasonable justification for the decision to bypass the top-ranked candidate. I am concerned that this decision may not follow the intent and requirements of the civil service process and potentially expose the city to legal liability. I believe the decision to bypass the top candidate sets a dangerous precedent for hiring future positions in the city, and also has the potential to have a detrimental effect on the department. I have heard from numerous current members of the Fitchburg Fire Department, as well as a firefighter in another city, who have universally expressed significant concerns with bypassing the top candidate. The civil service process promises members of the department that their skill and ability determines their opportunities for advancement. Every firefighter has the same chance to better themselves through education, training, and study. The department has always selected the highest scoring applicant whether it is by 10 points or 10/100ths of a point. Current firefighters I have heard from universally report that it would be devastating for this promise to be broken. To know that no matter how hard they work and how well they score, a promotion can be given to someone who is objectively shown to be less qualified for the position. The city went to great lengths identifying the best candidate for the position of fire chief. In place of a typical civil service exam, the city hired a consulting firm to hold a much more intensive assessment center in which retired fire chiefs and other professionals evaluated the candidates over the course of 2 days. This included a variety of individual and group exercises, simulations, and interviews, measuring each candidate's ability to effectively lead and manage the department. The assessment center clearly identified the best candidate for fire chief. One candidate scored 91 on this assessment, well above the passing score of 70, and 17 points higher than the next candidate. Once the score is weighted to reflect education and experience, this candidate has a civil service score 11 points higher than the next candidate. This is not a close result and clearly identified one candidate well above the others. In addition to the civil service assessment, the mayor convened an independent search committee to evaluate the top 3 candidates for the fire chief position. The committee held extensive interviews with the candidates and prepared a detailed ranking and recommendation to the mayor. In order to provide an independent recommendation, the committee agreed not to consider the civil service ranking in their evaluation of the candidates. Even then, the result was the same, and the committee voted overwhelmingly to recommend the top-ranked candidate for the position. So it is puzzling that the top-ranked and recommended candidate was not put forward to the council for confirmation, and we have not received a reasonable justification for why this candidate was bypassed. What was the purpose of paying for the assessment center and convening an independent search committee to evaluate the candidates if their recommendations are going to be ignored? I'd like to thank Deputy Chief Dadio for his more than 4 decades of service in the Fitchburg Fire Department. By all accounts, he has served honorably and is a great asset to the department and the city. Everyone I have talked to has nothing but good things to say about him. However, it is the council's ultimate responsibility to the department and the city to make sure that the best possible candidate is hired to be the next fire chief. This appointment ignores the results of the assessment center evaluation, the civil service score of the candidates, and the recommendation of the independent search committee. Therefore, I will not support this appointment. Thank you.
Deputy Chief Dadio, I
Mr.
truly
President.
respect and appreciate your 40-plus years of distinguished service to this department and to our city. That said, this is a civil service position. We put this out to an independent but certified assessment center, civil service assessment center, who scored another candidate significantly higher. We then went through a search process, which included a multitude of individuals, well-qualified individuals to serve on this committee, included among them our colleague, Vice President Walsh. And they too made the same recommendation of the independent certified civil service center that this candidate that is before us tonight is not the highest ranked candidate. Therefore, I believe that it's the responsibility of the administration to demonstrate both to civil service and this body a compelling case for why they should bypass the civil service recommendation and deviate from our search committee process. To date, I do not believe that that standard and that threshold has been met and that that explanation meets the standard for deviation or bypass. And despite the distinguished service that Deputy Dadio has given this city, I cannot move forward with confirming this appointment. That said, I have a motion from Councillor Fleming, from Councillor Walsh to reject the appointments. Mayor, I apologize. There was a motion on the floor.
Councilor, can I make a statement? I need to clarify something.
Mayor, unfortunately, I've muted you, sir. Unfortunately, you do not have the floor. I apologize, but the motion is before this council. We'll now go into a roll call vote, councillors. So I have a motion and second. Speaking to the motion, is there any councillor wishing to speak? Seeing none, Councillor Green, how do you vote? This is a motion to reject. So a motion in the affirmative would reject, a motion in the negative would be going against the rejection.
A yay, I guess.
Councillor Fleming,
Yay, to reject.
Councillor Van Hazinga,
Yes.
Councillor Walsh,
Yes.
and I am a yes. It is unanimous. The motion carries to reject the appointment by a vote of 5-0. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So
So
moved.
moved.
I have a motion and second to adjourn. We'll adjourn by unanimous consent. And to our viewing audience, the full city council meeting will begin in approximately 5 minutes at 7:25. Thank you.